Hello friends, I hope you're having a fantastic day. I have emerged from the bowels of Solo Arena, and I gotta tell you, it's been quite an experience. I may or may not have some bruises on my hands from slamming my desk in frustration, but it was pain for knowledge. Knowledge that I'm gonna pass on to you. In fact, there's so much stuff that I'm gonna split this video into 3 separate parts. We can cover the 3 different aspects that I think are most important to succeeding in Solo Arena, while keeping it straight to the point and getting this information quickly and clearly. In fact, I even wrote a script, even though I didn't write it very well. So, anyway, first off, why should you even bother playing Solo Arena in the first place? We've talked about Versus Arena. In Versus Arena, you can actually get this really good rewards, the same rewards you can get at 9 wins for Solo Arena that you can get at 7 wins for Versus Arena. And the reason is that, well, obviously, the big pull of this is that you're not facing against other players. You're only going to be fighting against bots. So if you're someone like me who sometimes feels a little anxious about playing against other players, about, getting BM'd, that kind of stuff, nothing to worry about. You'll just be playing against bots. Now, they are bots that have a pretty big advantage over you in multitudes of ways. We'll be talking about that later. It's a great source of cards. It's a fantastic source of getting legends. If you can get to 9 wins, the same as Versus Arena, you can actually get a pretty good shot at getting some pretty awesome legends. Like, almost all of these legendaries that I've gotten haven't come from decks, or they've come from winning at the Solo Arena and getting 9 wins and then unlocking this. Like the Sardis, well, that comes with the story, but like, I just got Elena Benok, I got a Rift Thane, I actually got 2 of these Anassis, and that's from winning at 9 wins with Solo Arena. It's the same with Versus Arena, but if you can get to 9 wins, I think, easier than you can with Versus Arena. Now, the other thing that you get is as you're leveling up and you're ranking up, you'll start out at rank 9, and then as you get 9 wins, you'll actually start going up in rank, and as you do so, until you get to the Solo Arena at rank 1, which makes you a Grand Champion, you get a promotion bonus. And that promotion bonus, on top of everything else that you get for the 9 wins, is going to make it very gold efficient. Like, you won't be making up the money that you spend. It's going to cost you 150 gold, but you'll come out usually making about 100 to 130 gold, and that means you're spending 20 gold for essentially like 2 to 3 packs, possibly legendary, lots and lots of possible dust. And the 4th reason that you want to at least rank up to rank 1 in Solo Arena is that, no, I don't want to open packs, is that you get an Adoring Fan. Now, you might say, well, I got the Adoring Fan for just getting to rank 1 the first time I won. That's true, but if you get all the way to rank 1, you get the shiny golden one. Now, why would that matter? It's because if you take the time to break it down, that's 1,200 soul gems right there, just waiting for you. I'd break it down right now because I have plans for things I want to make, but in case this video screws up, I want to leave them for later. Anyway, so now you're asking me, how do you build an effective Solo Arena deck? It's a draft, so that means there's going to be a lot of element of chance and a lot of element of RNG in. However, I do believe that there are certain guidelines you can keep to yourself when you're looking at different ways to play. So, and the ways to play that are successful and will get you to those higher tiers, get you to that 9 wins, you can consistently get really, really good rewards. So the number one thing that you're looking for when you're building your deck is a good, strong curve. And what do I mean by a strong curve? Well, what I mean is that you want, this is 50 cards, but you want to have a curve that looks like a downward slope, with the highest peak at the lower mana cards and then slowly drifting down until you get to the 6 and 7. So the reason you need this is because you need to have an effective early game to play, so that, because the way how the Solo Arena is programmed, they go face no matter what. And so if you're not playing in a turn 2, a turn 3, a turn 4, a turn 5, if you miss a turn, that means against the more aggressive decks that you'll be facing, you're going to get crushed. You're not going to be able to get back the board, and they'll just be able to put things down and keep putting things down as you deal with them, and then you'll just die. If you do it against the more late game oriented ramp or control variants that you'll face in the Solo Arena, you'll actually end up giving them more time to get to their big cards, which you won't be able to overcome. So It's very important to have strong early game, both to contest the aggressive early minions that you'll have to fight, and in order to quickly get the initiative and beat down and control the board against the more late game oriented solo arena decks. So what that means is having lots of early game, like I said, but it also means having some pretty, I would say, decently beefy cards at the mid game and the late game, like Preserve of the Root, Hive Defender, Sensei Tiger. These are all excellent cards that kind of represent that. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have Swamp Leviathans or the Lords, but if you do, that is something that could work. And ideally, because you're working with about 30 cards instead of 50, you want to have about 8 to 9 1 to 2 mana cards, 6 to 7 3 mana cards, 5 to 6 4 mana cards, and 5 to 6 5+ mana cards. Now I say 5+ because once you start getting to this level here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I think even 12, you're really, at that point, you have enough. If you have these early cards, like I said, and you have them in the numbers that I've talked about, you can substitute playing something for 5 or 6 mana for just playing like a 2 mana and a 3 mana card. But it is important to have a couple of these big things in there, otherwise your deck's going to run out fast, and you're not going to have the bigger, stronger cards to deal with the bigger, stronger threats that your opponent is putting out. Now, the other really big important thing to having a strong deck that can do well in Soul Arena is the ability to control the lanes. Now, what do I mean by control the lanes? Now, if you've played Elder Scrolls Legends, you know that there's 2 lanes. There's a normal lane, and then there's also a shadow lane. And what will happen, because the program is designed to go face, all the time, if you don't get a hold on the shadow lane, then they have an open avenue to just keep putting creatures down over and over and over, and they'll keep sending those creatures into your face, and it'll be a slow, agonizing death that there's nothing that you can do, unless you take cards that will let you control and dominate both lanes, including the shadow lane. But you say, when you play cards in the shadow lane, they have cover. How do I affect them? And there's 2 big ways that you can do this. The first one is to have fast cards. So if we take a look at action cards, like action with an N, cards like not an S. I apologize. So cards like Firebolt, Lightning Bolt, that's a good one. Winter's Touch, Firestorm, Mummify, Suppress, Arrow in the Knee. I think the Javelin is an excellent example of this, but even something like Execute. Cards that you can play to target minions in the shadow lane. Cover does not give them immunity to actions. Not only are actions very, very powerful in terms of controlling the shadow lane, but they're also they give you initiative, they allow you to protect your own creatures on the board. They're very, very important. It's important to have these strong, fast action cards in your deck. They really give you an advantage that will let you swing the game in your favor and be able to press it into their face and destroy them, just annihilate them. I would say actions are probably one of the most important components. And the other important component, well, before we get to that, you also keep in mind that not just action cards, but fast cards that have an effect. So a really good example of that would be like the Thieves Guild Recruit. You put him down, he's just a 1/2, right? That, as far as numbers go, that's not that powerful, but he draws you a card. The Murkwater Witch, another example. He can give any enemy -1/-1. This goes through cover. The Brutal Ashlander, he doesn't do something immediately, but when he dies, he does 3 damage to a random enemy. So these effects that allow you to extend beyond just the flat numbers on a card are extremely important for controlling the board. And you really want to keep an eye out for these kinds of cards, especially cards like this, Shackle cards that you can use to control and destroy aggressive decks or to make the valuable trades against more long-term control-oriented decks. Now, what's the other big element? It's guard. If you've played Hearthstone, you know this is taunt. And if you played Arena in Hearthstone, you know that guard is taunt is actually a pretty strong effect, but it's not, it gets attached to minions and it actually causes them to lose stats in return. So something like a Sensei Tiger for 6 mana, it might have been like it could have been like a 5/8 for 6 mana, but because it's got guard, they lowered the stats. However, having guard cards is vital. It's incredibly important because you can put the guard cards down in the shadow lane or in your own lane, and it will force the AI to either make unfavorable trades or to basically just ignore it and skip their attack. And cover only lasts for one turn. So like, let's say they play a okay, well, whatever, we'll use tier. Well, no, let's not use tier. Let's use, sorry, for this example, let's say they put down a sapper. Okay, so they put a sapper down in the lane, and he's in the shadow lane, you can't cover him, but then you put down a Kvatch soldier. Now suddenly he can't go face. He either will sit there and not attack, or he'll trade into your guy, resulting in an unfavorable trade. You can kill him next turn. And it's incredibly important to have guard cards. You really, really need them. It can make the difference between defeat and victory, especially in the late game, because they allow you to control the way that your opponent makes trades. And the AI is dumb. It will constantly misplay, play cards out of order, make trades that it didn't have to. So like, let's say you had your opponent had a bunch, like 3 1/1s and a 5/5, and you had a Sensei Tiger in there. It would trade all 3 of the 1/1s in first, and then trade the lion into the tiger, so wasting all those guys. So having guard is very, very important for being able to manipulate the way that your AI plays, and it's very important for actually being able to prevent them from destroying you by just putting down things in the shadow lane, because you can't control the shadow lane without guard and without actions. So, and then the fifth thing that you really want to keep, this is just kind of icing on the cake, but it can make a big difference, is card draw. So as you're playing, if you have the curve that I mentioned, what you're going to get is a lot of situations where you'll be able to play actively turn 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then once you start getting into the late game, you're going to start running out of cards because your opponent will stop hitting you in the face because you're controlling the board, and then you'll need ways to get cards back. So cards like Varanus Courier, the Renegade, Thieves Guild Recruit, as mentioned earlier, Disciple, Enchanted Plate, East March Crusader, the Highwayman, basically cards that you can use to draw other cards and give yourself more options, are very, very powerful. Not as powerful as having actions in the first place or having guards to control and manipulate the battlefield, but these can be incredibly powerful. And I'll be talking more about that in the future. The other thing that you want to keep in mind is that ultimately the way how you're playing, or the way how I found the most success, is playing a control value game. So what you're doing is you're trying to stave off the early game, like kind of like this. You're trying to stave off the opponent's early game with your own early game, trying to control the board, and then in the mid to late game, once you have control by trading, getting value, and by value I mean, like, let's say they play a 3/3 and they make the 3/3 go face, and you trade the 4/4, this Shadowfen Priest, into the 3/3, you have that 4/1 left over to trade with something else. And so that's what I mean by value. You're controlling the board, you're trying to prevent them from playing minions, you're trying to slowly whittle them down. You don't normally want to burst them down by, like, let's say, playing a big 8/8 guy and smashing him in the face, because he's going to draw multiple cards, and when he draws those multiple cards, he might draw a way to get back into the game. So instead, what you want to do is control the board and slowly whittle him down. Once you feel like you have a comfortable hold on the board, you want to slowly bust him so he's only using like one card at a time from his runes. And ideally, you want to hold on to your actions beforehand, so if he does play something with Prophecy, that you can deal with it with your own actions. So because of that, you're playing like this kind of, you're going to draft your deck like a tempo deck, but you're going to play it like a control value-oriented deck. And you're just going to slowly whittle them down. The only times where you want to just go for burst is like when you have cards that have like a drain effect on them that give you health back. I'll be talking more about that in a second. Or if you're racing, if you know, like, okay, so he's either going to be super late game and he's going to have really powerful cards, I need to beat him before he gets these cards out. Or if he's managed to just destroy you and you only have like a handful of life points left, and you know you only have like 2 or 3 turns before he's going to be able to put a threat down, then you have no choice but to just smash him as quickly and as hard as you can. So now that we've talked about the general gist of how you want to approach building your deck, let's talk about the specific colors and which colors I think you want to keep an eye out for. Now, in terms, I'm going to consider neutral cards to just be available to everybody, so I'll talk about those first. There's a couple in here that you might want to keep your eyes open for. Reachman Shaman can be pretty good, but ideally, if you get a chance to pick up a Slaughterfish spawning or a Crushing Blow, these are both very powerful cards in Solo Arena. I would always take those, especially Crushing Blow here, because you can either use it as removal or you can use it as reach. It's very powerful. But the one card that if you see it, you pretty much want to pick every time is the Crabman, whose name I can't say, so we'll just call him VD. You want to pick up VD every time he shows his horribly ugly face. The reason is, his ability to destroy a support is incredibly powerful. When you're playing against some of the decks that are built on willpower and built on strength, they actually will have supports in their hand that you can use to destroy this. But even better, when you're playing against Solo Arena, especially at the higher ranks, they're going to start getting advantages in the form of supports. It might be something that, like, oh, every turn they're going to deal 1 damage to you. Every time they play a minion that costs 2 or less, they have a double version of it on the other side of the board. They start with the ability to have 2 guards on the field. Their minions have 1 more attack. The list goes on and on. But whenever they start with a support in that form, they will have it represented as a support icon right next to them, like when you have the Elixir of Magicka. And these guys can actually target and take out those special handicaps that are put against you. Very, very powerful. It can turn the tide of battle, especially when it's a deck that's built around that. So, like, let's say you're playing... There is a Wisp Mother Solo Arena deck that you have to play against, where it's a bunch of 2 mana or less cards, and she'll just keep summoning copies of them because she has this effect on her at the very beginning of the game in the form of a ring support. You can use VD to destroy that support, and then her deck is you've broken it. So, if you ever see VD, grab them. Vicious, Vicious Blow, and the Spawning. Yeah, Crushing Blow and Slaughterfish Spawning, also 2 really, really good cards. Grab those whenever you can. So, let's talk about the colors first. Green is probably the best color you have available to you. It has everything that you're looking for. It's got effects that let you control the early game. It's got actions that let you trade efficiently. It's got big chunky guys, it's got card draw, it's got efficient trading, it's even got utility, it's got something no other card has, which are the move effects. I believe there are 3 cards that do this. Let me turn on Soul Vision. Yeah, so any of these cards give you a lot of flexibility, and there's something that are only available to green. You've got plenty of guards in green. You've, in fact, some really good guards. You've got, the Fighters Guild Recruit, the Courier, the Pack Stalker, Black Sap Protector, Murkwater Witch. Even I would argue the Guardian is a really powerful one. You've also got some great actions, like I said. You've got Arrow in the Knee. No, I said action. Sorry. You've got the Curse, which is basically a free -1/-1, which is really powerful. Murkwater Shaman, if you can put him down, he puts a curse in your hand. Really, really powerful. Finish off Malefic Wreath, Malefic, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Ransack, sometimes even Smuggler's Hall. You've got options. Green has got everything that you're looking for. And to talk about some of these keywords, too, that you're looking for. Prophecy, if you're playing against... Prophecy. So if you're playing against a deck that's smashing you in the face, having strong Prophecy cards can really help you. And, like Fighters Guild Recruit, Black Sap Protector, Moonlight Werebat, Ransack. These are cards that, if you trigger them, they can turn the tide of battle when they're triggering your runes, because you get to play them for free. Drain cards are something that green specializes in. So what happens when you have Drain effect, when you hit a minion or you hit your opponent's face, you get that life back from whatever damage. No matter how much damage they did, you get their total attack value back. So Moonlight Werebat, Giant Bat, Snake Tooth Necklace, even the Spriggan, these are all really powerful cards because they let you gain your life back, and they let you kind of hold off the bleed that an opponent is putting on you. They let you really stabilize. They can give you a big advantage. And the last effect that I want to talk about that green has that's really powerful is lethal. And this is also this guy's got so many nice things working for him. He's a 2 mana, he's got guard, he's got lethal, he's got prophecy. And lethal means is that if they do contact, if they manage to attack and wound a creature, no matter how much health they have, they'll kill it. So that's a fantastic effect. You've got like the Territorial Viper, the Skooma Racketeer, the Recruit. You've even got charge minions. And what charge minions do, you can play them instantly whenever they come out. So like the Giant Bat, like mentioned before, Territorial Viper, which is basically a form of removal. The Crook, which you can either use to remove a one mana thing, or if you can keep it on the field, it's like a 2/1 with charge basically, or a 2/4 for 2 mana if you can hit face with it, and it can keep giving you mana. Really, really powerful. Cliff Racer, fantastic card, and these charges double as forms of removal. So the Territorial Viper basically is a 4 mana removal card. The only thing that gets in your way are guards. Giant Bat, if you can play this and like start hitting them in the face, that's like you're doing 2 damage and getting 2 health back. That's a 4-point swing. Cliff Racer, really, really powerful card. And yeah, just green is honestly, I think in Arena, the best deck. Like, if you look at every level of their rarity, from the commons, they have fantastic commons. Not the best, but really good commons. They have fantastic rares. They have fantastic legendaries. Their epics are strong, too. Just like, really, really powerful cards on every level. Like, the Murkwater Shaman. The Swindler is actually a really powerful counter card to some of the decks that you'll run into that are based on using items. So, the Renegade, which has card draw, Leaf Lurker, Spider Lair, which can it's a little slow, but it can set you up. And they arguably have what I would consider to be the best legendary cards for Arena. So you're looking at Thieves' Den. So basically, if any of your creatures hit face, they get buffed by 1/1, which is amazing. You've got the Quinral Burglar, who, if she goes face, she gets 4/4, she has Drain. This is a win condition right here. If the AI doesn't have a way to control her or to remove her, which they will, but if you can get this off and it goes uncontested, this can single-handedly win you the game. The Packmaster, fantastic card. He's a 6/6. He's like a 6/6 guy. He has charge, and then when he gets removed, he replaces himself with a 4/4. The Listener, he is a 1 mana card that he fills your deck with 3. Well, he puts 3 1 mana cost cards that have lethal, and then when you play them, they draw a card. And because you're only playing with 30 cards in your deck, you're a lot more likely to get one of these to go off than if you're playing constructed. So I would say, whenever you see green is you want to take it at every opportunity. Green is the color of choice for Soul Arena. Now, second up is blue. So what does blue have rocking for it? If you look at blue, they're all about card efficiency, card draw, and in a way, actions themselves. So they have lots of ways to remove other minions with their own actions and their own creature effects. So you've got things like Firebolt, you've got things like the Cunning Ally, which, if you have a majority blue, this could be a very viable card. You've got Lightning Bolt, Firestorm, Ice Storm, which does 3 to all creatures. You've got ways to control your opponent's deck, and then you've got ways to draw cards. And like I said, being able to draw cards is like icing on the cake. It's not vital, but it can be a huge difference, and it can make a really, really big difference in the long term. And you've just got an incredible pool of common cards. I would say blue has the best common cards available to them, even better than green, because you've got everything you're looking for here, with like Nightblade, Nightblade, Brutal Ashlander, Quartermaster, the Navigator, Soul Split, Shrieking Harpy. You've got really powerful early game that has really efficient effects. You've got guards in the form of the Sentinel. You've got the removal that we talked about, Firebolt, Lightning Bolt. You've got Tome of Alteration, which draws you a card, gives you a boost. And then you've got, like, even I would argue the Wamasu is like pretty decent. Like, the worst thing in this whole, I would say the worst card in your commons is going to be Ice Wrath isn't a common. It's showing up because Ice Spike is probably your worst card, because all it does is just draw, like, it draws you a card for 2 mana, basically. You don't really want to be playing, like, this kind of aggressive deck. Now, the problem with blue is that it does not have very strong, like, guys. You don't go to... Blue is not the home for beefy, chunky dudes. I think the strongest guy, just on its own, is a legendary card that's 6... Yeah, the Archmage, which is a 6/6, or this dude, whose name I'm not even going to try. Or I guess you could say even the Atriomancer, but these are all legendary creatures. So, the blue has the best I would say utility. They have really strong actions. They have really good early game. They have really good card draw, but what they lack is kind of like the staying middle game, mid game power. You're not going to find the chunky minions that you need to get like the really value trades in blue. And so you need to keep that in mind when you're drafting with, depending on the other card, you need the other color that you pull with blue to be able to provide those big chunky guys to combine with blue. And then if you can get another card, here's the spoiler, all the colors except for one of them other than blue can do that, and I'll be talking about that one color, and that's the color you want to avoid. But you know, they've also got fast action creatures like Ash Servant, Elusive Schemer, and they kind of specialize in Shackle, which is something that green also has. Green has some Shackle effects in there, but blue is the master of it. And Shackle is really good when you're playing against an aggressive deck. Things like the Mace of Encumbrance, Shrieking Harpy, even like Winter's Grasp when you're behind. Sorry, I'm a noob. I don't have this unlocked yet. You can really put yourself in a position to retake the board with these cards. So blue, I would say, is the second best color. Now, in terms of willpower and endurance, yellow and purple, I would say these both stand about the same. They're both pretty decent. They both combo really well with either green or blue, which are your primary colors. Green being your number one pick, blue being your second pick. If you get partnered with a willpower or an endurance card, you're doing pretty well. So just to talk about willpower real quick, they're actually really self-sufficient. They've got a lot of, they're kind of like the lesser version of green. They've got some good removal in the form of Execute. They've got Arrow Storm. They've even got like the almighty Javelin, if I can find it. I should just type action, but Piercing Javelin, which is a prophecy card, and it's flat out by remove a threat. Super powerful. One of the best reasons to play willpower or yellow. They've got some strong guards in their hand as well, and they also feature a lot of ways to get life back, which is super important when you're playing against these aggressive decks. I'm not sure why that's showing up. You'll just have to take my word for it that you can get lots of life. Healing Potion, the Disciples, Priests of the Moon. I don't know what the Disciples are. But yellow has an interesting problem in that a lot of its cards are just decent. Like, they're not amazing. So, like, I'll give you an example. Cards like the Imperial Legionnaire. It's a 3/4, you know. That's not bad. That's okay. You've got the Dawnstar Healer. He's just a 3/3. You've got stuff like the Adoran Paladin. He's just a 4/4. The Tusk guy, the Boar. Where is he? Where are you, buddy? The Tusk Bristleback. He's just a 5/5. And you've got a lot of these kind of, they're okay cards. They aren't amazing, but they'll do. They're just bodies. And unfortunately, you need to have like that really powerful effect that comes with a lot of these cards to really overcome some of the more challenging handicaps and decks that are thrown at you in Solo Arena. And so the biggest weakness that you have when you're playing yellow is that you might run into these cards that are just kind of, they're okay, but they're not amazing. And you need to have those strong, amazing cards in order to do well. So like a good example is like Pack Wolf. You know, it's a 2/2 for 3 mana. It puts a 1/1 in the other lane. It's like, oh, okay, you know, like, that's okay. It's good, but it's not that amazing. And then there's just like a lot of cards like that, like the Somerset Shield Mage, the Snow Wolf, Screen Grab Patroller. So yellow is pretty good. It's on the same level as Endurance, and it's very similar. It does have the big bodies. It does have good prophecy cards. It also features token elements, things like Divine Favor, Imperial Reinforcements, the Scout Patrol, which is right here, Scouting Patrol. You've got ways of putting little dudes on the battlefield, making those little dudes stronger, like the Broom of Profiteer, the 5th Legion Trainer, and there's even the Legionnaire at 7 mana, or the Prefect, Legion Prefect. So these token elements combine well with the other things that the other colors have to offer, so that's another advantage that Endurance has. So, or not Endurance, Willpower. Now let's talk about Endurance. So Endurance is like a little bit, out of all the colors, it's the one that's most slated towards late game. So you do have really nice mid to late game cards like the Preserver of the Root, North Point Captain, Stone Tooth Scraper, You've got like the Night Predator, Night Shadow, Lowland Troll, Flesh Atronach, Mountain Tyrant, Swamp Leviathans, Nagleave, the Lords, even Iron Atronach if you can get that, which would be crazy. If you drop this, like, you basically won, because the I have not seen the solo arena guys use they don't really use lethal, which is like the only way that you can deal with this realistically. But they also feature a lot of really good guards and really good prophecies. So you've got like the Faerun Defender, you've got Stalwart Ally, Treeminder, Preserve the Root already mentioned, Captain also already mentioned, Midnight Sweep. If you look at their prophecy cards, they have some pretty powerful ones there as well. So if you get hit and you're getting smacked, you have some options. Something really cool that Purple has are silence effects, which are featured on Suppress, Curse Spectre, and the Shadowfen Priest. I would argue that Suppress is not worth taking in your deck. Some people might argue otherwise, but just having these guys around can be a really good way to deal with the effects or the buffs that your opponent is putting on them. And the big problem that they have is they don't have a lot of just direct removal. So they have Mummify, and they have Mummify, and that's about it. Like they instead, what they have are cards like lethal cards, like the Deadly Draugr, the Daedric Dagger, the Spider, the Elite, the Venom Tongue. These are legendaries. So these are ways of slow removal, which are still really powerful, but they don't have fast removal like the other colors that I've explained have. So these cards are still really powerful. I would recommend taking these cards when they show up. You do have big chunky guys, and you do have guard effects. Most importantly, you have some really good early game guard, like the Defender, the Warden, the Shield, the Ally. But what you lack is, I would say the weakness of Endurance is that you don't have active early game. Like, these guys are all like defensive, and all they do is slow your enemy down. Like, they don't let you retake the board. You need to rely on your other color, like blue, yellow, or green, to take that initiative and actually control the early game. So, and then, like I said, they don't have good actions. They have to rely on their other colors. But it's still really, really powerful. I consider Endurance to be another really, really good choice. So right now we've got green at the top, blue at second, and then Willpower and Endurance, I would say, on like the third tier. And so that leaves one color, and you guessed it, it's red. It's Strength. So I want to say off the bat that I don't hate red. I think it's got some really powerful cards, and if you draft red in solo arena, it's not game over, but it does mean that you're gonna have an uphill battle, because they have some really inferior cards for what you're looking for in arena, solo arena specifically, for each slot. So like, this is the common slot. Like, look at this card pool. You've got things, this is just a 2-1, that's a 4-1. There are so many ways that the solo arena guys can do 1 damage. This is just a flat 2-2, doesn't do anything special. Scuttler's just a 1-2. Now the Scout, the Steel Scimitar are both really good. Rapid Shot's pretty good. Skaven Pyromancer is fantastic, so is the Rehad Battle Mage. But then you've also got conditional things like Stone Throw. You've got like the Butcher that requires you to have other orcs. You've got the Whiterun Trooper, which it's, again, very easy for your opponent to remove this. All they need is a guard with 2 attack, or a way to deal 2 damage to a creature, which there's a lot of different ways to do it. And this is kind of the problem that, this is the problem that red has at all levels of rarity. Like, if you look at their epic cards, they have some good cards, and they have some not so good cards. Like the Whirling Duelist, it's a 6 for 5/5. It requires you to have equipment. Let's look at their rares. So like something like a Bone Bow, it's a really slow way of silencing something. Sylvanar Tracker, it's really conditional. The Afflicted Allet, it does 2 damage to you, which could be awful. Fireball, it's 4 mana to deal 1 damage to everything. Bog Lurker, incredibly vulnerable. So the red does not have what you're looking for. It doesn't have guards that are that effective. I mean, it has a couple of guards, but it doesn't have like the really powerful guards that you're looking for. Its action pool is really lacking. So I have to turn this back on. Its action pools are inferior. It does have, in its defense, it has charge minions, which are very powerful. Rampaging Minotaur, Raiding Party, Battle Rage Orc, Nord Firebrand, and to an extent the Bannerman, which when you attack with it, it gives you 2 0-cost 1/1 Firebrands. So it's like you attack with this, and then you have the ability to do 2 damage. And then so these function kind of like removal, but inefficient removal. Paying 3 mana to do 2 damage, paying 4 mana to do 3 damage. Now the big advantage, the big thing that Red has going for it are they have some really powerful items and cards that can really benefit from those items, like Steel Scimitar, Plunder, the Rehad Battle Mage, Assassins, Bow, the Orcish Warhammer, the Survivalist, even like the Hrothgar Forge, which is a really powerful support. You've got some really good improvised weapon even. You've got some good buffs for your creatures, but I would avoid red at all cost. I would not, unless you had no other option than to pick a color combination with red in it, I would never pick red. I put all the other combinations above that. So, some things that you need to keep in mind when you're playing specific color combination. Just a couple of warnings. When you're drafting blue cards, you want to look out for the action combo cards that give you basically value and efficiency for playing actions. So the Peddler is a really good example of that. He's a 2/2, but if you play 2 cards, he draws you a card at the end of the turn. Ice Wraith, Navigator is he's fine to play. The Crystal Tower Crafter, the Hex Mage. So these are cards that if you play in the style, there's a danger of you falling into like this combo deck where you're all built around playing actions and being action based. But the problem is that if you do that, you're not gonna be able to. This is a constructed deck. You're not gonna be able to keep it up unless you get really, really lucky. You're not gonna get consistent results. You're gonna have the actions to deal with what your opponent is putting out, but eventually you're gonna run out of those actions, and then your opponent's just gonna be able to overwhelm you. So you actions are good, but you want to have majority creatures in your deck, and you want to avoid trying to build like these combo decks. And then the other warning that I want to give you is that when you're playing Willpower, there's a lot of cards, like I talked about, like Imperial Reinforcement, Scouting Patrol, Imprison, the Savant. These are cards that benefit from playing a token style, but you don't, unless you're about 20 cards in and you're like, okay, I built a token deck. I've got 3 Scouting Patrols, I've got 3 Imperial Reinforcements, I've got the Imperial, Divine Fervor, which gives everything on your board +1/+1, which, by the way, if you ever see Divine Fervor, grab it because it can win you the game. If you see that you built a token deck, keep rolling with it. But don't fall into the trap of picking yellow and then specifically going for cards that are only good with tokens. So don't, when you do your first pick or your second pick, don't pick Hero of the Anvil, or don't pick cards like Imperial Siege Engine or even Legion Prefect, because these are cards that if you don't manage to draft that token style play, they suck pretty bad, and they'll lower the quality of your deck tremendously. And so you don't want to pick these cards, and you don't want to fall into the trap of picking them. And then the last one, this applies to all of them. Beware the ally cards. So each color has a different ally, and each of these effects basically rely on you having a majority of that color in your deck. The Mighty Ally, Cunning Ally, the Resolute Ally, the Nimble Ally, and the Stalwart Ally. It's okay to have them in your deck, because just sometimes having a 3/3 to play on turn 3 is totally fine. But don't build your deck to make these work. And what I mean by that is, people will see something like the Cunning Ally, which gives you a Firebolt if you have majority, if you draw a top card blue, which is amazing. People see cards like Resolute Ally, give everything in your lane +1/+1 if the top card is yellow. And what they'll do is they'll see these cards, they'll pick them up because they're commons, all these are commons, and then they'll decide, I'm going to draft a majority yellow, or I'm going to draft a majority blue because I picked up this ally card and I want to make it work. None of these effects on any of these ally cards are worth sabotaging yourself like that. Don't limit your selection because of these ally cards. If you just happen to have a majority of that color, great. If you're early in the draft and you don't have a better pick, you know, take it. It's fine. If the effect doesn't go off, you have a 3/3, which is decent. But don't be in a position where you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to draft majority purple because I picked up a stalwart ally, and that means that I'm going to give up taking something like a Fighters Guild recruit or a lightning bolt because I don't want to have more. I only want to have purple cards in my deck. Don't do that. Don't pick inferior cards because of the color. That's a big trap, and that's something that you really want to avoid. So, in summary, green is awesome. It has everything you're looking for. Grab green every time you see it. Blue has amazing common cards, great early game, great utility, great removal. Also an excellent pick. If there's no green, pick blue. If there's green and blue, pick that every time. Endurance and willpower. I keep flipping those. They have good cards, good guards, good, you know, willpower has good actions and good tokens and good health gain. Purple endurance has good big chunky guys, good guards, good lethal cards. Both really decent. They both combo really well with either blue or green. And then avoid red at all costs. Never pick it unless you have to. And so with that said, I have my rankings of which classes are the best and which classes are the worst. You can probably guess based on how I talked about it. The overall best class for you to take is the Assassin, which is green-blue. The next best choice would be the Monk, which is green and yellow, or the Scout, which is green and purple. The next choice would be the Sorcerer, who is purple and blue, or the Mage, which is blue and yellow. That's tier 3. The tier 4 guy is the Spell Sword, which is purple and yellow, which can be really strong if you draft a token style, because out of all the color combinations, purple and yellow lend themselves really well to a token deck. So you have the greatest strategy, the greatest ability to draft a token deck that way, but you don't have the superior cards that you get from blue or green. And then the worst decks possible are basically anything that has red. If you're stuck in a situation where you have nothing but red cards, like you have red and yellow, you have red and purple, you have red and blue, you have red and green, pick either the first pick out of the worst I would take of the red cards would be the Archer, because it's got green cards and green can carry even with red. And in fact, there's even some synergy, because the red cards have a lot of way to do 1 damage, which really benefits the wounded effects that are in green. Stuff like Finish Off, Stalker, the Leaf Lurker, maybe even a Leader, but although I wouldn't take a Leader because she's really circumcised. And it self-triggers the tracker, so there's a lot of synergy there, and you have the chance to get something like a Reaver, which would be really cool. Or if you don't have that choice, then I would take the Crusader, which is willpower and strength, because there's actually a lot of synergy between the different token elements, and you might be able to draft a good token deck with yellow. Yellow is more self-sufficient than blue or purple is, and so you'll have to rely on your other color, green or yellow, if you do end up drafting a red. But anyway, I have talked a lot. I think this is, out of the 3 videos, this one's going to be the longest, but it also has the most details. In the next 2 videos, I'll be talking about how to specifically do the draft, and then I'll be giving tips on how to fight in the arena, certain things to look out for that will improve your chances of success, and giving my overall impressions. Now, if you stuck through the whole thing, you're amazing. Thank you for listening. I enjoyed this, even though my voice is starting to go hoarse. If you found this helpful, if you found this insightful, if this made you think, consider leaving a comment, giving me some feedback. I'd love to hear from you. Maybe even consider a like, even maybe a subscription. That would be fantastic. I plan on putting out a lot more of this because Elder Scrolls Legends, a bomb. Anyway, I have talked forever. I hope you have a fantastic day. I'm Twinklebutt, and I will see you later.